back from who knows where, drinking beer and betting sports. It's the Better or Worse podcast with Mitch, Randy, and Jersey Joe.
All right. Hey, guys. So we're back, and we got Drew sitting in. Jersey Joe is off running around the country, and obviously we got Rick Shaw. Rick Shaw is back. So listen, obviously right now we're in the middle of college basketball, and last night was a great there's been some great games lately now that we're in conference play, and last night was another one. That Texas Tech Kansas game, to me, it did multiple things. It established Kansas to me as I think they're the front runner in the Big 12. I know that a lot of people still like Baylor, but I also think it separated the rest of the field as two guys right now up for Player of the Year. I think you've got to have Agbaji and you've got to have Davis, and I think they're like mountains in front of anybody else right now. What are your guys' thoughts on, first of all, that game? That was just a great game, but also the Player of the Year, because I want to hear both of you guys' thoughts on Player of the Year candidates as we're moving through the season. Drew, what are your thoughts?
I mean, going off that game yesterday, I would definitely say Agbaji. I mean, he had like 36, 38 yesterday. The one thing about him is towards the end of the game, he got a bucket, and the next few possessions, he seemed to be a little passive in like the end of the game when it's 89, and I just thought he would take over more.
Not closing the game out like Davis. So right now, if you look at those two, I would call Davis a closer, and he's closed out some games. Randy, what are your thoughts?
I didn't watch the Texas Tech game last night. I was watching Michigan, Indiana. But as for Player of the Year, I don't really have one right now, and the reason for that is it's so early in the season. And what I've seen this year in college basketball is that teams that I didn't think were very good 3 or 4 weeks ago are starting to emerge and become better teams now. So I think there's going to be some surprise candidates at the end of the year. I guess if I had to pick one guy, I'd probably pick that center from Arizona. His name escapes me at the moment. Yeah,
Tubelis?
That guy. I've watched a few games live this year, and of all the players that I've seen live, that kid stood out. He was unbelievable.
I have a feeling his name will come back up later in our podcast, but listen, what Drew said was very accurate. The problem that I see with Kansas is they don't have a guy that says, give me the damn ball late. That's the guy that you want, right? They've got everything else. When Brown decides that he wants to play, they're a very good team, because if they have Agbaji and Brown hitting outside shots along with McCormick inside, that team can run 6 games in a tournament, no problem. That just doesn't seem to happen as consistently, and it hasn't happened over Brown's career. So Davis, on the other hand, is just the opposite. He literally is a closer, and he says, give me the ball. I want the ball. I want to take that shot. And it's funny because last year I considered him, and I think it's Kroll, was the other, or Davis and Kroll were both freshmen last year, and I thought Davis was a liability for them. I thought he'd come off the bench last year, commit crazy fouls, and take horrible shots. And now he is a guy that literally will take over a game, and he's won 3 or 4 games. So I think that there are two guys that have separated themselves in there, and they weren't the ones mentioned at the beginning of the year. I think everybody had Kofi Cockburn for Illinois as kind of a runaway guy. I think a bunch of people might have had Tilly out in Gonzaga as runaway player. But based on what I'm seeing right now, those are my 2 front runners. And I think that they're also, both guys are playing in the 2 best leagues in college basketball. So I think when you start to separate yourself, when you go up against the type of talent that they go up against on a nightly event, and for them to keep putting up the numbers that they're putting up, I think is very impressive. Davis doesn't have the talent around him that Agbaji has, and that's what makes it even more impressive, because when I look at Wisconsin's team, I'm like, what is this? I mean, it's a one-guy show late in the game, and I've just been very impressed with them. Now, Randy, I know that since we have this going on, I noticed nobody is talking about a guy that I thought was going to be a Player of the Year was Liddell, right? Now, Drew, since you're an Ohio State guy, why don't you tell me what people are saying about Liddell in and around campus? I'd like to hear what people are thinking about the way he's approaching this season and what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole campus loves Liddell. He's such a people's guy. Last week we had a ton of snow, and he was out on campus hopping on these like cartwheels, just like sliding down the snow with all the students, which was super cool. I mean, I feel like most top tier athletes in college basketball wouldn't do that. But I mean, he's definitely taken another step this year. A few guys like Arns definitely aren't making plays, but Liddell is definitely taken a bigger role this year, and he knows that going in, taking a lot more shots. He's top 5, I believe, in blocks. So, I mean, he can just do it all. Definitely a little undersized, but can pretty much do everything.
You mentioned a guy, Aarons, that it's like his shot has disappeared. Are they saying he's hurt? Is there anything going on there?
I mean, I have not heard anything. His confidence he still has confidence. Like, he gets it and he shoots it. He has the ultimate green light, but just haven't been able to fall. I don't know. I mean, outside of the three ball, he can't do much either. Hasn't made a 2-shot all year. Attempted like 2 of them. Not good on defense. So, like, he's got to get that shot back.
I think Liddell is suffering from losing Washington a lot. I think the loss of him on the perimeter, and Aarons too, because Aarons was getting wide open looks because Washington just demanded so much attention out there. And now that he's gone, I think those two guys have had to take on roles that they're not particularly comfortable with. And I think it shows on the court.
Yeah. We did get a transfer point guard, Wheeler, from Penn State, who's definitely leading the offense pretty well. He's more like defensive oriented, but I mean, a point guard's a point guard, similar to CJ Walker from last year. He just leads the team, dishes out balls, but not much scoring on the offensive side. So that's definitely what we struggle on.
So are people thinking they might be a Final Four team or no?
Probably not. I mean, it's hard to say, but when it comes to tournament time, you need scores. I was confident last year. Washington obviously could put the ball in the hoop. Liddell, but that obviously did not get past the first round. But I don't know.
Randy, what are your thoughts on the Big Ten teams?
On making a Final Four run, but there's definitely a shot.
Yeah, I think in the Big Ten right now, I think it's Michigan State, Purdue, and Illinois that are the class of the field. I'm actually kind of surprised by Michigan State's how far they've come, but part of their success really is due to Matt Christie and how well he's played. I mean, he's a true freshman. He's come in and he's number 2 scorer now behind Gabe Brown on that team, and I mean, he looks really good in terms of the things that he can bring to the table, and he's got MSU playing very well. MSU's a guard-led team. They got 3 very good guards and a bunch of complementary big guys, which is can play in the Big Ten. Kofi's missing. I forget the name of the guard that they had last year in Illinois, but he was a big presence for Illinois. I really thought Curbelo was going to come on and play better than he's has.
Been hurt. Well, he's been hurt. Let's give him. Listen, he's been hurt, and I will say one thing about Curbelo is he got so much better last year throughout that season. I mean, he came out of New York City, and they thought, wow, this guy's going to be all world, and he came out. He was turning the ball over, doing a lot of crazy jump passes that you do in high school and you get away with. But towards the end of the season, I thought he got a lot better, a lot more discipline out there. And today, we'll, after our commercial, we'll kind of get into that game, I think. But he might have to start taking over some games for them. He might have to be a 12, 14 point guard, but also dishing out 8 assists and maybe getting a steal or 2 a game and kind of dominating from the point guard situation for them to really achieve what they thought they were going to achieve. Because I don't think Frazier can do it. I don't think, and Cockburn right now is not playing like a player of the year candidate. Now we don't know if he's going to be playing at all because of his concussions. Curbelo has the ability, and you saw it, and he's got crazy handles. He reminds me a little bit of Kenny Anderson back on the day with his handles. He's got crazy good handles on the ball. But he needs to, the next month is going to say a lot about Curbelo, I think, and what kind of career he could have at Illinois. But Yeah, I think right now in the Big Ten, if you're talking about playing on a neutral court, I say it's Purdue all day long. I think Purdue on a neutral court, hands
Agree.
down, is the best team that would line up on a neutral court.
Most talented for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that they've got listen, they got two big men. And their second big man was a guy at the beginning of the season that I thought, Trevion Williams is a guy I thought might win Player of the Year. I still think he might be the MVP because of how he gets double doubles and he gives up a lot of playing time to Zach Edey for the betterment of the team. And I think he distributes the ball. I think they run a lot of offense through him. The rest of that team, they just need one of their three guys, Ivy, Hunter, or Stefanovic, really to heat up. And they become a very scary team. If one of those three guys heats up from three, and then you got the two big guys just getting rebounds and putting the ball back with Edey down there, that's a tough team. And you put them on a neutral court. Yeah, I still like them. I still like them a lot.
They are without a doubt the scariest team in the Big Ten, without a doubt.
Yeah. All right, so let's do this. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about today's games, lineups, and kind of get into that.
So what's it like playing Sport Hitters, whether you're at your favorite bar or just anywhere? Sport Hitters' unique challenge brackets offers players a new way to play. Sport Hitters allows you to pick your teams and challenge friends, family, and rival players, all for real money. And best of all, now it's every sport, every day. You can get the app exclusively at sporthitters.com. Sport Hitters, challenge on.
All right, so today's lineup's a lot of fun. You look at the board today, and you kind of see stuff East Coast to West Coast, and you see good games starting at 7, and then you see good games starting at about 11 o'clock at night. So let's start to break some of these down. Drew, give us some games that you think we should all be looking at on today's slate.
I mean, coming straight off the Big Ten talk, I feel like that Michigan State-Illinois game is top 2, top 3 tonight. I mean, we still have Coburn's availability in the air, but regardless, that's still going to be a tight game there.
All right, so MSU, Illinois. Randy, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, this is one of my picks for today, so I'll be careful what I say here. But, again, this is going to be a game that's going to have a lot to say about who is going to end up at the top of the Big Ten standings at the end of the season. MSU's got they came off a big win against Wisconsin on the road. Now, Illinois is coming off a loss at Maryland without Kofi, obviously. It's going to be an interesting game. And I've got a pick in this game, and I'll hold it for later.
So, I think the big question is, are both guys we keep talking about, are either of them playing, or are both playing, or is it just one of them playing? Because nobody knows right now. Nobody knows if Coburn's going to come back from that concussion. Curabello came back, I think, in the last game for the first time in about a month, but there's rumors going around that he might have re-injured himself. So I think looking at the numbers, and I think Drew touched on this a little bit before we jumped on here, but looking at the numbers, you'd have to say they have to be playing, because with Michigan State coming off a big road win the way they did in Wisconsin, they really couldn't be getting this number, could they? They couldn't be getting 4.5 if both Cockburn and Curabello were not going to play, right? So the number is instructing you that they're going to play. That's what the number is saying. Because they couldn't take they can't make Illinois minus 4.5 and both those guys aren't playing. They'd get killed. Vegas would get killed, because Michigan State should be able to win this game if both Cockburn and Curabello are not playing. Would you guys both agree with that? That would make sense, that they could win the game if both of those guys were not playing? Do you think Illinois has fire? Randy, do you think Illinois has firepower enough to beat Michigan State without both those guys?
I do. And in fact, I heard Brad Underwood say that on national TV the other night, where he said, missing Kofi, he said, we got smoked, and there's no way this team, with all the firepower we have, should be losing games just because we don't have Kofi. I think they have something to prove in that regard. And if he does not play tonight, I still think it's going to be a very close ball game.
Okay. All right.
And there's another reason for that too, because Marcus Bingham is the big man on the other side tonight, and he's not. He's more of a complementary player anyway. So it'll be interesting to see, who that, if Kofi's not in, how much impact Marcus Bingham has in that game. I don't think it's going to be a lot. And if he doesn't have a lot, then basically you're talking about the guards of MSU versus the guards of Illinois.
What about Gabe Brown? You don't think Gabe Brown's going to go nuts if Cockburn's not in that game?
Well, Gabe Brown is Gabe Brown's Kofi's not going to be guarding Gabe Brown, right?
No, but he'll make it so it's tougher for him to get to the rim and finish some baskets.
Yeah,
and it should be wide open if he doesn't, right?
I think Gabe Brown will be happy not to see him in the game if that's what you mean. But I don't think. I think, to answer your question, I think Illinois has enough firepower to hang with MSU without Kofi.
What about without Kofi and Curabello? If both are sitting down,
again, it makes it tougher. But
you think they can? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you still got Trent Frazier. You got a bunch of guys on that team that can really play, and you got Grandison. It's going to be an interesting game. I really hope Kofi plays because I want to find out how good MSU really is.
Well, listen, they just got a big road win. So I don't. At the end of the day, they beat Wisconsin. If you look at Wisconsin's resume, Wisconsin's got a great resume. They're they got a loss to Providence, which is a pretty good team. They got a loss to Michigan State, which seems to be a pretty good team. They've beaten some good teams. I mean, they've beaten some top tier teams. So, man, okay. What else, Drew? What other games do you think we should be looking at?
Kansas State Baylor was one that also stood out to me. The line was 14. But Kansas State's been pretty hot. They've been staying in their games. And obviously the Big 12 super competitive. So I just don't know if you guys think that's another letdown spot for Baylor, because I know they've dropped a few as of late.
I would look at a Kinjo. If Kinjo's playing, I'd say they'll beat them by 20, 25 plus. I think it comes down to a Kinjo. They seem to have righted the ship pretty quick, right? They lost 2 home games, then they went out to West Virginia and kind of slapped them around a little bit. And they just won their last game again. So it seems like they righted their ship, but the guy that's righting their ship it seems like it's Mayer on the outside, not Flagler. But if they get a Kinjo back, and I don't know how to say the guy's name, but they call him Instant Energy. It's I don't know how to say his name on Baylor, but he's an amazing big guy that gives them incredible energy off the bench. He comes off the bench. He typically goes in, he gets 2 or 4 points, but the team seems to pick up as soon as he goes into the game. So I do like Baylor. 3 years ago, Kansas State was one of my sleeper teams when they had the Wade and Brown and they had those good teams. They've got none of that, and they haven't replaced any of it, to be quite honest with you. I think they are a shell of what they were 3 years ago. And I think this could get very ugly really quick because Baylor doesn't let up. That coach at Baylor, Drew doesn't let up. He puts the press on you. He puts that defense on you, and he's relentless. And if his subs are in the game, his subs are going to press you too. He doesn't let up. He comes at you for 40 minutes. What are your thoughts, Randy, on this game?
Well, this might be unsurprising, but I totally disagree with you.
I love it.
I like Kansas State plus the points in this game. I think if I look at their point differentials, neither team plays defense. So yep. I look at the point differential per game. It's only 9. The spread is 14. Throw in home court advantage. You're right there. I don't know. I like the 14 points. If I had to pick this game, I'm taking the points.
Well, I think that's the big question is if you had to pick this game listen, if I was given 5 games to pick, this would be one of them. I would take Baylor minus the points at home. It would definitely be one of my 5 if I had to pick 5. What else you got, Drew? What are the games?
Texas TCU also stood out to me a little bit. TCU's been heating up a little, and I think it's at 2.5. And I was just checking out some public action on that side. I figured it'd be like 65 on Texas, but I was seeing 65 on TCU. So it seems like the public likes TCU, which sort of shocked me.
That's a home game for TCU in the Big 12. That's why the
Yeah.
public's on that,
Yeah.
right? And so Texas has been slumping lately with Bird, but the team. The interesting thing is Bird is now slumping, and our guy in Marquette is crushing it, right, with his defense. So the guy they got rid of and the guy they got in are now in different spots, but. Texas still has, I think they still have Ramey. I want to say they have Ramey at point guard, and the other guy, the two guards, Ramey, the same two guards as last year. And I expected a lot more out of them this year. I definitely expected them to rise up. Anytime you bring back your two starting guards in the backcourt, I expect you to play well. Listen, at the end of the day, to me, it's just a Big 12 home game for TCU, and there's no way I would ever recommend anybody taking a struggling Texas on the road in a Big 12 game. So I would stay off it.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts, Randy?
I'm with you on that one. TCU is going to win that game outright. I like them. I mean, I think right now in that conference, it's basically all the Texas teams and Kansas right at the top of the standings.
Yeah.
So this is one of these interstate Texas games. I like the home team. I'm going that route. I don't have this game today, but if I had to pick it, that's how I would go.
So the interesting part is TCU. I'm looking at the standings now. Is 3-2 in their conference. Texas at 4-3. TCU 7-1 at home. Okay, there's your reason. TCU is 7-1 at home, and Texas is 1-4 on the road. So exactly people are looking at this like it's a home game in the Big 12, but TCU seems to be a team that plays much better at home. So what other game are you looking at, Drew, out there?
Mississippi State, Kentucky. Mississippi State's off a 20-point win against Ole Miss, who just smoked Florida yesterday as underdogs.
Yeah. So I saw this one early when I looked at it. Grant, I want to hear what your thoughts are on this because I have some definite thoughts on it.
Kentucky, it's a typical Kentucky team, starting slow, kind of getting better as the year goes on. This will be a great test for them. I agree. Mississippi State's been tough of late, but I see Kentucky winning this game.
Yeah, I like Kentucky to win it big. I like Kentucky to win this game big. Number one, Kellen Grady was a transfer. I think he's going to start to settle into that offense and the way that they play there. And watch out for Kellen Grady because nobody knows who he is from Davidson, but that guy can score. He was a Massachusetts Player of the Year in high school, and he can score. He went down to Davidson. He transferred out of there. I expect him to fit into that offense as they keep going along in the season and getting better and better. I expect Kentucky to run away with this game. I like them to win and win big. What else you got, Drew?
Finally, Arizona, UCLA. Game of the night.
Yeah,
it is the game of the night.
I'm staying up for that one tonight.
Yes, I'm on my third cup of coffee, and I think I'm going to have another one because it's not going to start till about 11 o'clock, I think, our time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this game is there is an injury in this game that nobody's talking about, and it's the guy that you mentioned, Tabolas. So Tabolas missed his last game, I think, with a sprained ankle. And the thing about UCLA is they're actually not a big team. They're all right there, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" kind of guys, and it's crazy to say that's not a big team, but it really isn't right now. And the biggest thing I was looking at all day, are they going to allow fans in? Because this past week, Stanford in California, no fans. Cal, fans. So you're talking at opposite sides of the Bay Area. One is allowing fans, another one's not. Then you come down to UCLA. UCLA last week didn't have fans in the stands, and supposedly it's going to be a sold-out crowd tonight. So supposedly, and that to me is the difference maker. Because now all of a sudden it's not 12 guys lining up in the gymnasium. Now you have a home court and a road team. And so to me, I think it's an easy play, and it's all UCLA. I think it's an easy play at home. They're a dog, first of all, at home, and you have an injured Tabolas. So even if he does play, I don't expect him to be the difference maker in the game that he could be. Because I think Johnson, I think Juzang, I think a lot of those guys will move around the basket. They got that little point guard Tyga still. Listen, UCLA, I think, is going to win that game. Randy, I know that you like U of A this year. I know that you think the ranking supports where they are. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, so I was live at the arena in Vegas this year when Arizona played Michigan. And, again, Michigan was, still a raw team at that time. But that was one of the biggest, most athletic teams that I've seen all in the last 5 years, Arizona. I think they may be the best team in the country. Now, if they're missing their big guy, then I like UCLA. But if that big guy's playing, it's Arizona all day and twice on Sunday.
Oof, boy, those are some strong words. Strong words. Not a chance in hell. Let's just put it that way. UCLA all day at home.
Pauley
Pavilion. Pauley Pavilion. You're absolutely crazy if you think U of A is going into Pauley Pavilion and pulling out a win. UCLA is going to be ready to play. UCLA will be ready to play this game.
I love Juzang. I love that guy. He is awesome, right? I mean, I watched him single-handedly beat Michigan in the NCAA semi or Final Four final last year. The guy is awesome. But that center from University of Arizona and that supporting cast, that's an athletic group, and they're big. Love them.
Listen,
I think Arizona is the highest point differential in the league too. So I'm on Randy's side too.
So let's make sure we understand one thing about the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is down this year, right? To me, first of all, ASU is the sorriest ASU team I've seen in 32 years. That's I could get 5 guys go out and beat that team right now. Then you have Oregon State that they lost Stephen Thompson and they can't seem to find themselves because they don't have Stephen Thompson anymore. Washington and Washington State, they're losing to like Eastern Washington now. Eastern Washington and Montana States are beating Washington States. Oregon, still a formidable foe. USC, UCLA, and Arizona. There's your 4 schools that are going to go to the tournament. Colorado's not going to sneak in. They're not going to get the resumes are not going to get them there. So now you're looking at about 4 teams in that conference. Who did UCLA lose to? They lost to Gonzaga, right? U of A went on the road to Tennessee and was getting manhandled from the start. They were never in that game. They might have only lost by 8 or 9. They were never in that game. And that's a bad team. To me, Tennessee is not a top 25 team. I know they think they're ranked about 24, 23. They're not a top 25 team. I expect UCLA. To me, this is the steal of probably the week. It's going to be the best line you're going to see at least this week for UCLA to be getting points at home. I think it's a steal. And
are you on the money line tonight?
Obviously, because I got them in my brackets. So I took them in my brackets, and then I took 2 other high favorites because I'm getting such 11.5 points. You're getting 11.5 points in the brackets by taking UCLA at home, a team that was in the final game that has all 5 starters back. 5 starters back. And now you're talking about U of A with their first-year coach coming into Pauley Pavilion? No. You guys are looking at this all wrong. That's a first-year coach, don't forget, at U of A. Welcome to Pauley Pavilion. Welcome to that madhouse. Because if you don't watch a lot of Pac-12 basketball, that is definitely a madhouse when you go into it. So the fact that they have fans, good luck. I think it's a 10, 12, 14-point win. And I think it's a 10, 12, 14-point game at halftime, and it just kind of stays even the second half. I don't think U of A is in this game at all. But Drew named basically most of the games that I cared about. Was there any other games in there tonight on the board, Randy, that you wanted to talk about that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, I've got one other game. I really wanted to break down the Maryland-Rutgers game tonight. Rutgers is 11-7 overall. They've got a very veteran team. Maryland's coming off a big win over Illinois. This is kind of a do or die game for them. I think if they don't win tonight, they don't make the tournament. I know that's early to say that, but
they don't have the resume. They don't have a resume.
Well, and they won't. They're not going to get a resume if they can't beat Rutgers right on the road.
Right.
So, the game is the over under on 132. The money line for Rutgers is minus 175. Rutgers at home. I think Rutgers at home is a done deal. 175 all day long for anybody who wants to bet it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm definitely a believer in Rutgers at home. However, with that being said, they're not really at home. They're actually playing at the Barn. They're playing at their old home that they haven't played in since 1977. And I believe they're only allowing 3,000 students into that game. And I believe it's at the same. So researching this, I think Jimmy Valvano was originally the coach of that team back in the 60s or 70s or something. And they're playing at something called the Barn. However, with that said, it is a road game for Maryland. Maryland has a really good player in Ayala. They have a really good player in Ayala, but the rest of that team doesn't play with him. They don't step up and play.
Scott's pretty good too, but you're right. They got nobody else after that. And if you look, and if you're looking at Rutgers, I mean, they've got
Harper. You got Harper Jr.
They've got Harper. They got Geo Baker. They've got guys on that team who can really score it. And
so Geo came in last year as a transfer, and I think this is his second year. He's playing much better this year than he did last year. And I think with Harper is a guy that if Rutgers maybe had 2 extra wins right now, we might be talking about him up there with player of the year because he has taken over some games. He's put up 20, he's put up 30 in a couple games. And he is a guy that will be in the NBA. He is a guy that is the right size and the right slasher and the right kind of shooter for the NBA. I'm with you. I think they beat Maryland. I don't think Maryland, the line's only, I think 3.5, right? And when you start looking at 3.5, that's not much. I actually like Rutgers' team. I was one of the only guys that I know that said take them over Purdue. I had them over Purdue when Purdue went to Rutgers this year. And I still believe Rutgers at home is a different animal, just like Indiana. They remind me a lot of Indiana, that when you see Indiana play at home, you have to be very careful about them in the next game if they're on the road. You see Indiana play at home, you're like, boy, they're a really good team. Then they go on the road and you're like, what? They're not a really good team. Rutgers, to me, is that same type of team that can fool your mind. When you watch them play at home, they are a different breed, and they all seem to have this confidence level that they don't carry with them on the road. And it's probably because it's the Big Ten. They probably that's the whole reason, right? Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? I mean, it's so I do. I'm with you on Rutgers all day.
And I got one other game I want to talk about real quick is that we talked about MSU and Illinois earlier today. Yeah. I absolutely love the over in that game. It's 141.5. Illini are averaging 80 points a game this year, 79.3. And the Illini and MSU's averaging 75.3 points a game. They're both up-tempo teams. The over-under at again, at 141.5, I think it's a lock.
Do you like the over more if Coburn's out?
I don't think it really matters because, I mean, in some ways he slows the game down. So because, that's
one thing.
Yeah. Even if he was out, I'd still like the over at 141.5.
Yeah.
So I can't tell if you can tell my lip is bleeding because I'm biting my lip. Anytime I hear the word lock, I'm about ready to go bet the other side, just because it is just it's amateur hour. Amateur hour when you say lock. It's just straight amateur hour.
You can't see it on there, but it says Rickshaw Randy the Right. You should listen to that. Randy the Right.
You can't catch 24-0, says on mine. So until you get there, we're good. But 24 in a row, get there. So listen. I don't touch over-unders, so I'll defer to you on this one. I'm not an over-under player. I think that's an interesting number. I think Curabello plays, then all of a sudden you could be looking at a lot of points. I think if not, I don't know how they score a lot of points in this game. Yeah. But Max Christie, like you said, is that his name? Max Christie, the freshman for Michigan State. Is he a one and done guy? Are we looking at a one and done guy?
I think so. I think he'll be a pro next year.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Would
let's
he be like late lottery? You think so? Late eighth?
I don't know about lottery, but the kid's averaging 13 or 14 points a game, and he started off not very well. He's averaged. I think his last 5 games, he's averaging almost 20 points a game. He's top shelf.
All right, let's jump onto these and let's put these things up here. Here we go. All right. So what we got here is we got Randy's, we got Drew in the middle and Randy on the right. So Drew's looking at Cincinnati, Michigan State, and Arizona. And the one thing I noticed that stands out right away, is he's got 3 road teams. He's got 3 road teams, and that begs my cardinal number. My first rule in betting in college sports is that you always need to be on home team. So you got Cincinnati 7.8, Michigan State 13.6. I mean, listen, you're getting 29.79 if you go 3-0. Looking at Randy, he's got Dayton and Fordham. Who's at home in that game, Randy? In Dayton, Fordham, do you know?
Yeah, it's Fordham.
Fordham's at home. Who they said a lot of times they have trouble scoring. You got Rutgers at home, which we just talked about. You got Arizona on the road. So you got 2 road teams. Boy, am I lucky? All right. So you guys between the two of you got 5 out of your 6 picks are road teams in college basketball. I went with Kentucky. To me, it's an easy winner. Oregon, easy winner at home. And because I believe UCLA is going to get me the points I need to win this thing. So I took 2 low ends and UCLA. It looks like our brackets will come down to UCLA, Arizona, because both of you guys are on Arizona. I'm on UCLA, so it should be interesting. Yeah, it should be an interesting night. So Drew, take me through your Cincinnati Temple pick.
I just feel like Cincinnati right now is not in the tournament. I believe they're like 11-9, something like that. And it's either now or never. I think they're off 1 or 2 wins. Yep. And they know games like this, 4 to 8 point favorites, they can't mess around in. So I feel like Cincinnati, if they're going to turn their season around, it's definitely right now. So that's definitely my most confident pick. I'm still in Arizona, I know. You got me turning a little bit, but you just got me more excited for that game. So, and then Michigan State, I just feel like if Curbelo or Coburn's out, just one of the two, I just feel like I get great value at 13.6 there. So if Michigan State can find a way, I feel like I'm taking this one home.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you are getting great value, and the funny thing is I could win the UCLA game, and you could win the Michigan State game, and your value, you said the right word, value. So if you believe that they can play and outplay them, then you are getting great value. The only thing I would say about Cincinnati is a great pick, and the reason it's a great pick is Temple lost their leading scorer 4 or 5 games ago, and I don't know how they're going to replace that guy. He was averaging, I think, 19 points a game. And so, yeah, I see Cincinnati winning that game. I think that's a good pick. Obviously, I'm on the other side on UCLA. Randy, take me through your Dayton Fordham pick.
Yeah, I like Dayton because they're giant slayers this year. They're always a badass, hard-nosed team, and I think Fordham's soft. Yeah. So that was an easy pick for me. I like. We talked about the Rutgers Maryland game earlier. I just love Rutgers there. And then we talked about the Arizona game. I think Arizona might be the best team in the country. So even on the road, I know maybe I'm too optimistic and don't take enough of an account of the road venue for UCLA, but I like Arizona there. So.
Well, I think you're both wrong on that game, obviously. I love UCLA, and I love the fact that I'm going up against both you guys, and it's going to be a late game. So
the way I look at it, it's just me versus Drew.
Do you recall a score of 42-0, Randy? Because I do. We had a 42 rip. Listen, at the end of the day, if you think that Arizona is the best team, you are getting great value. So it is a great pick. If you've seen them play and you think it's great value. Anytime you can get 8.33, if you're getting 8.33 on a low a low point spread, and you think it's a great value pick.
Yeah. I mean, they've got that Kerr kid that plays. That's Steve Kerr's son, right?
Who's he playing for? Is he playing for Arizona?
Yeah. The
So I think I just saw a quote today from Steve Kerr giving a lot of credit to the U of A coach. And that might make sense. I didn't know he was playing. I do know that Bobby Hurley's kid's playing for ASU, and he plays 1 minute a game. So, and that 1 minute actually came when his dad wasn't coaching because he had to sit out for suspension. So I don't know if you saw that debacle the other night, but here's the big thing about the Pac-12. It's very hard to bet Pac-12 because they definitely have the worst referees in all of college basketball. When you're watching them, you feel like you're watching the training school for college referees. It's a very hard thing. They're very inconsistent. You don't know how they're going to call a game. The other night, ASU played, I think, Stanford. It was one team took 41 foul shots, another team took 9. And when you see that discrepancy, you just can't have that discrepancy in a game. It's impossible. And that same team that took 41 took 3 with 0.2 seconds left to go in the game to win the game. So I think that you have to be very cautious when you're picking games in the Pac-12, and they can have a lot to do with it. They're not, I don't know, for some reason, when I watch Big Ten officials, I feel like they're used to watching teams beat up on each other. They allow them to play, and you get to see a lot of stuff. With that said, I think we saw, was it Rutgers that beat Iowa this past week on a really bad dribbling? They called a foul way out late with maybe a half a second to go in the game when a guy was dribbling the ball. But outside of that, I do like watching Big 10, Big 12 basketball because I think the officials let the play go. Whereas the Pac-12, you really got to wonder. But I expect this game probably to have their best officials in it. It's going to be a primetime game on the West Coast. And, listen, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to take a lot of coffee to stay up and watch that game, but I'm really looking forward to that game. And I think that's going to set a precedent maybe for a number 1 slot at the end of the year in the tournament. I think that this is what we could be looking at is who's giving themselves an opportunity to fill in on number 1 on the number 1 line at the end of the year. So I think that's an important game. Michigan State and Illinois, I think no matter what happens in that game, I don't think it's going to affect the rankings at the end of the year. I don't think it's a make or break game for either team. I think both teams will be looking at a 3 or 4 on the line probably at the end of the year. And I don't think this is going to break them. But I don't know. Overall, I love the board tonight. I love what we're taking a look at. Randy, are you going to be watching? So you're going to be able to stay up and catch this game tonight, Randy?
You know, this is where I miss living in Vegas, right? So I may be DVRing this game and watching it in the morning. But, I'm probably going to try and stay up and watch at least the first half. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be an Arizona blowout, and then I can go to bed at halftime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, hard to come back after that one. But so listen, our bracket, you get the brackets at sporthitters.com. And you jump in. It's daily challenge brackets. This will kind of show you how to play. You just create your own, invite your friends, challenge them. It's a lot of fun. It's always picking winners. You're picking winners. You weigh the teams. You get in there. You have fun, and it's for real money. So you load up your account, play, enjoy it. Should be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Listen, we'll recap this when we come back on Thursday. I think we got a lot covered, and there's a lot to look forward to tonight. We'll see everybody back here on Thursday.